Welcome back to the Anything is Possible podcast with me, Jono's Journey, navigating neurodiversity in recovery. So, this week's episode is self help with me and ChatGPT, where I'm going to be taking a look at the messy and meaningful world of self help. And maybe we'll have a chat about things like motivation and accountability and how I can use some of those things to help myself. And before we jump straight in, we'll kick things off as usual with a disclaimer, and that is that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are my own as a late diagnosed autistic adult with ADHD in recovery from various addictions, with physical and mental health conditions. And this is my not professional advice, it's just my journey. So take what resonates, leave the rest, and maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle, thriving and trying our best. So yeah, as you can see, I've got myself a fancy new little microphone here, podcast mic that changes colors. Um, so things are moving up in the world. I've got my LED lights above my head, and I've got LED lights in the microphone. So my sensory spidey senses, or my sensory sensations are tingling or whatnot. But yeah, I suppose there's a lot that's been happening lately. I kind of been taking a bit of a break from the podcast and not doing it as much. Part of that is just because there's been so much happening and there's so much to catch up on. I think it's a couple of weeks since I did the last episode, Freedom and Growth, and yeah, a massive thing that's changed for me recently after many, many months of waiting. Some of you probably know I'm signed out of work with over a year, mainly due to my neurodivergence. Trying to get a whole host of reports and see what accommodations, if any, in the workplace might be suitable and things like that. And so, yeah, there's been a massive financial sort of impact of that, where for a long time I was living hand to mouth. Literally, my eating has gone haywire, and I'll talk to you about that as well. But yeah, big massive thing was, I had to become very frugal for a very long time. And I don't know, money is one of those things that I think is probably weird to talk about, because in the past you were probably told, like, don't talk about money, don't tell anybody what you have or what you haven't got. But I don't know, it's a big part of, as somebody who's a late diagnosed autistic adult with ADHD, it's a massive part of the journey, that even with a career of over 20 years, even with health or income protection insurance with Irish Life, and TRR, temporary rehabilitation remuneration, whatever it's called, which I didn't hear about till 9 months later, even with all these protections and things in place, it's like, I don't know, it's a minefield in terms of trying to navigate the system and try to just, I got another 12-month break in my mortgage, which has been massive. Without that, I'd still really been struggling. But eventually, after 9 months, finally my income protection was approved from Irish Life. And that's something I want to contact them about and say, look, is this the norm? Is that how long it normally actually takes for somebody? What if somebody wasn't in my situation, where they were able to rent out rooms and sort of do the things I had to do? I don't know how anyone else would have survived. They probably have to move back home, or I don't know. I just really struggle to think. So yeah, I want to send them a message and say, look, thanks for my 9 months back payment, but like, please send me all the dates of the milestones of when I applied, when you denied it, when you made me go for more testing with more people twice on multiple occasions. And yeah, like, I want documented all the hoops I had to jump through and how long it took, because just for my own knowledge, I want to know, is that the norm of what somebody has to go through, and appeal after appeal. And it's not just that, there's other things as well. And, I didn't hear about this temporary payment you could get through work till just recently as well. And so something that is a massive turnaround for me in the last month or so, or whatever it is that, yeah, I got some back payment and I'm finally able to breathe. I'm definitely not out of the woods yet, because there's a lot of debt to catch up on. And one of the first things I did was clear a couple of credit cards and try to map out, the best way to kind of be sensible, and also to try to have some fun as well. So I've booked a couple of retreats and, nice little things that are good living, which are good for my recovery and good for my health and stuff like that. And just to be able to go to the supermarket and buy groceries and not be worried that it's going to bounce at the checkout is a massive, massive thing, because for so long I was in my overdraft. I was over my overdraft. Every single time I tapped my card, I didn't know if it was going to go through or not a lot of the time. And that was for simple things like groceries. And there was a lot of bounce payments and stuff like that. And for anyone to have to kind of go through that, it's a really humbling experience, but it's really, I don't know, to be in that level of financial distress is quite difficult. I'm grateful I managed to keep a roof over my head, as difficult as it may have been at times. Luckily things are turning around. And so that is a massive, massive thing, in terms of what went well. And I've probably been celebrating a bit too much or stressed a bit too much, because I've been leaning into the treats and the sweets and the whatnot. And that's something I need to look at as well. But for now, I'm enjoying a little bit of freedom, and, well, maybe I should say a lot of freedom, because one of the things I did, and I went to Mabs as well for some advice, and I went to them a week after I did this, but I got a car on PCP finance. So yeah, there's pretty high payments for the next 3 years, and then after that I can make a decision whether to give the car back, in which case it was like a kind of a cheap car rental for 3 years, or I can keep the car and pay a balloon payment, or there's another option, but I can't remember what it was. Keep the car, give it back, or yeah. So like I didn't I didn't read the small print, don't tell anybody, but there was a lot of terms and conditions, and it's a very high payment, but at least it's a brand new electric car. I've never had a brand new car before. Never had an electric car before. So yeah, after being off the road for a couple of years, which fair is fair and all that, I'm really happy to be back on the road and to have some independence back, and I can just drive here, there, and everywhere and plug myself in. It's really nice, and I think I'll never take that for granted again, having the freedom of having a driver's license and actually having a car to be able to get around. Because as somebody with autism, who I really struggle with sensory issues, I struggle with people, noise, lights, distraction. Like my ADHD and my autism just have been triggered like you cannot believe every time I've had to go to a medical appointment on a bus, which takes twice as long to get there. Buses have broken down, they haven't showed up. I've really had to dig deep and sort of find a lot of resilience and perseverance getting around on public transport, on trains, buses, you name it. And so now I can drive around, and now I can it's a lot easier. But now the hassle is things like parking and traffic, but it's really not comparable in terms of, it's still a lot easier being able to get around, having that independence to get to places by myself. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful. And, I'm not saying it in a boastful way, like, oh, look at me, blah, 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 I have a new car, because I do. But like, I also have lots of debt. I've signed a contract where I have massive repayments for years to come. So there's also the flip side of it. But that was kind of I weighed up the pros and the cons. And for me, it's something that it's an absolute need. I have lots more medical appointments coming up. I won't bore you with all the details, but next month I'm finally having my heart looked at again, the extra heartbeat and stuff like that. And there's just lots of appointments coming up, and I need to be kind of reliable to be able to get there, when I need to get there, and not kind of be reliant and dependent on a bus that may or may not show up. And so, Yeah, that's massive, massive news. And yeah, thanks to VW Volkswagen for the finance. I don't know how I passed the. Anyways, I'm pretty good. I'm actually pretty good with money, I have to say. It's just, when you don't have much of it, it doesn't matter whether you're good at it with it or not. When you don't have enough to meet your needs, it's like it's hard to just survive sometimes. And so yeah, so I can finally kind of take a big sigh of relief. And there's a lot of things I've been putting off as well, which I'm now able to do. Things like get some appointments with medical professionals that I need to get. So yeah, things like seeing a psychiatrist. I've booked an appointment with an occupational therapist, which is a massive thing. I'm kind of new to the whole world of occupational therapy. Besides my work's occupational health therapy, which is the one I've been seeing up until this point, I suppose now I'm able to get somebody who's hired by me and who hopefully, I can tell them what I need. I can tell them the struggles that I have in a way that works for me, not through somebody else's format that I have to jump through their hoops and their way of doing things. Even, there's everyone has a process and a way of doing things, but I suppose now I can have somebody who, I feel like when an occupational health organization is hired by a company, they're kind of singing to the company's tune somewhat. That might be a bit controversial. I could be wrong. Maybe they have my best needs in mind the whole time. I'm not sure. But my experience is that I feel like Irish Life, my income protection, my work, and Medmark, my work's occupational health company, I feel like they're all in cahoots, and they have emails and reports floating around saying this person will be fit for work by this time, which I don't really agree with. And so now I can afford to get my own independent advice and my own independent specialist to really meet me and go through some of the struggles that I face. Because, it's all very well when I come on here and I'm smiling and I'm, chatting into my new microphone with my colors. Like, but that's not what it's like most of the time. Most of the time it's a struggle. And more so, I don't want to kind of get all somber and things, but I feel like compared to a year ago, I'm finding things even more difficult. And I'm now over 2.5 years sober, and I really thought things would get easier, but they continue to get harder in terms of my emotional sobriety and all the aches and pains I have. I've been referred to rheumatology as well, which I think is another thing that went well, because it's like with my autism. If I was late diagnosed, and what if I was diagnosed earlier and had the supports earlier that I needed? Maybe I wouldn't have had some of the accidents that I had in my addiction. Maybe I wouldn't have been put off the road for drink driving. Maybe I wouldn't have, a lot of the injuries that I have now. I don't know. And so, yeah, I suppose all I do know is moving forward, I'm going to try to get all the medical help I need, all the assessments, all the diagnoses, all the reports, whatever I need to get, I'll get, because I've spent a lifetime of not having that stuff, not having the diagnosis, not having the support that I need. And, it hasn't gone very well. And I've attended a few autism events as well and workshops where, all about emotional regulation, and there's parents and there's other people there, adults with autism like myself, and people share their experiences of things like assessment of need, which is something that kids have under the age of 18, and the Disability Act, and how the majority of assessments of needs that are completed are not in line with the Disability Act, or they're not in line with policy. And so there's all these cases being brought against, I don't know who, the Department of Health or the Department of Education or the HSE or whoever, they're being brought against because things are just not up to standard. And that's my experience as well, is that, like, I was declined by the local HSE mental health team, and it didn't feel like a good fit in any case. And the reasons that have been written down are actually not the reasons why. It says like, oh, it was declined because I wanted to see somebody for ADHD meds. That was not why it was declined. Whether or not I need to go on medication for my ADHD, I don't know. If I do, I will. If I don't, I won't. It's one of those things where, I really, I'm thinking about going back to college. That's another thing that's gone well, is that I've been invited for an interview for another master's. It's like my second or third master's, but it's a totally different area. It's in something that's kind of really a big part of my life at the moment. And um, so yeah, it's so maybe, to I don't know, like I struggle with distractibility and impulsivity and compulsivity and focus and like all of that stuff. So I don't know, maybe to be able to do the coursework, maybe I might need to have my ADHD treated. I'm not sure. Even now, as I'm saying this to you, I can't remember. Like I can't remember how I got onto that topic because, oh yeah, I think I was saying like that. So there's a lot of things. So there's a lot of things that are going well, but there's a lot of things systemically in the system, that's supposedly there to help people like me, that's just flawed. Apparently, when you're over the age of 18, the Disability Act doesn't apply. So there's a whole host of other things which come into effect at that point. And one of the reasons I'm seeing an occupational therapist is to kind of get a sensory profile and look at any sort of dyspraxia type motor symptoms. And I don't really know all the language. I just know that I struggle every day, all day, every day, with lots of different things. And that isn't to sound like, oh, whatever. I'm also trying to do the As I Am 100K cycle for autism, which is today in Wicklow, but I'm not really physically able to do it all in one day, or I could be, but I'd be in bits for the next week or two. And so I've kind of decided to break it up into pieces and do like 10K a day for 10 days in May. So I've already done about 50 kilometers. Um, we're in just gone past the middle of May. So there's about half a month left to do the other 50 kilometers. Hopefully that's acceptable. And thank you to all the people who've donated. And I'll keep sharing the link till I reach the target, hopefully. And yeah, so it's one of those things where, sometimes I can do what other people can do, but it has a much bigger impact on me afterwards or beforehand, or, I'm not able to do other things then as well. Or it's hard to kind of quantify, or it's hard to articulate because each day, and each activity I do is kind of like dependent on a whole variety of factors, like my sleep, what I've had to eat, like the weather, like how much noise there is. I seem to be in a particularly busy neighborhood next to a busy road. Um, yeah, one of the latest things is the ice cream truck going around with the ice cream siren, and it's really triggering, not just to my autism, but to me as a food addict and somebody with disordered eating, basically most of my life. Every time I hear the ice cream truck, it makes me want to get something sweet. So even if I don't go to the ice cream van because I don't want to be surrounded by a load of screaming kids, I might go to the shop and buy myself an ice cream. It's like this trigger, and or I'll just eat some chocolate from the cupboard, and that's kind of a routine, which I've fallen into, and it's not very helpful because I'm about 2.5 stone overweight, so I need to lose about 2.5 stone. And you know, now that I've been referred to rheumatology and stuff, there's definitely, I have arthritis and chondromalacia in my knee, and I've got my back and my neck, my back, my neck, and my shoulder, and whatever else. And so, yeah, so basically, I need to lose some weight so I can just get out and move around a bit better. But I don't know. It's hard to talk about this stuff when one minute you might see me flying along on my bike, and the next minute, when I'm at home with the curtains closed to kind of regulate myself, um, I'm kind of on the couch with aches and pains, like I'm an old man, and I'm ready for the scrap heap, the scrap yard, or something. And yeah, it's and both of those things are true. I'm not fit for work right now, but I can also sometimes look like I'm really productive, or I can look like I'm able to do lots of things, but then usually I suffer afterwards, or I need a big break. Um, and it's hard to accept my limitations, because I I now am ready to start living a good life and grab every opportunity with both hands and try to be active and try to manage my, you know, emotions and like my try to manage my mental health by being physically active, and I'm just not able to be as active as I would like to be, and that's really hard to deal with, and it's hard to accept. And I'm wearing a Cork jersey. I'm wearing a Cork jersey today, like I'm a Cork man or something. But yeah, I was up in Cork there earlier, so I just pulled this out of the cupboard because it's a bit loose, and I was able to tuck in my stomach. But yeah, so that's some of the stuff that's going well. Okay, so I'm going to move on, and I just want to touch on something that hasn't really gone so well, and I've kind of mentioned it there already. It's really just that feeling of overwhelm and burnout, and I'm hearing it more and more. Being more sort of part of the autistic community, and I attend some events with Thriving Autistic as well. There's a monthly meetup where they have breakout rooms with different topics and stuff like that. And one of the breakout rooms this month was all about burnout, and so not just regular burnout that people would have on a day-to-day basis, but actually autistic burnout where it's kind of complete sensory overwhelm and shutdown, where it's like it's it's hard to kind of explain, but because I'm realizing now that that's probably what I experience quite a lot, and I just never knew there was a name for it. I never knew what it was called, and it's one of those things where, when I have to mask and sort of be neurotypical or fit in a neurotypical, like if I go to a shopping center or like walk around a supermarket or something, and there's lots of people, or now I'm adding to the list, like trying to park in a busy car park and drive home. And so I'm just going to use today for example. Like this morning I got up and I drove to Cork, which is about an hour away, and I didn't go into the city centre. I just went to kind of the outskirts. And so, yeah, parking wasn't too bad. And I was following Google Maps and just, trying to pay attention to Google Maps and where am I going. I was listening to a podcast at the same time, and so I probably was doing too much, but that's something like I have to do. I think it's called body doubling, where you're listening to somebody else, like there's somebody else there with you, almost like company. Sometimes listening to a podcast or watching something on YouTube or things like that, it's kind of body doubling where even if I'm sitting here doing some painting, which is another thing I've started, or restarted, I should say, it's kind of comforting or like soothing in some way to feel as though the radio is on. I know lots of people like to have the radio on in the background sometimes. Um, so yeah, I that's something I've so anyway, my mind's like firing in a million different directions right now. And there's always that tug of war, there's like the ADHD, the autism. It's like, oh no, which way do I go? Do I go for chaos and creativity and excitement, or do I go to like routine or whatever? What was I saying? Oh yeah. So basically, now it's after lunch and I'm completely overwhelmed, and I'm recording this podcast, and it's probably totally off the wall or doesn't make sense, or I don't know what I'm saying because I'm really tired and I need to go for a nap. Or like I need to have like a little treat or something, a little sugar or something, I don't know. But so what was I saying about that? So Yeah, so basically I get really tired and burnt. Oh yeah, burnout. Burnout is a real thing. And yeah, and so I'm going for a sound bath on the beach tomorrow. So that's another new thing. Going for a sound bath and a sea dip and a sauna. And so I'm part of the dry robe club now, even though I don't have a dry robe. Um, I'm going to cycle to the beach, hopefully. That will, and to the beach and back is at 10 kilometers. So by tomorrow, I'll have 60K of my 100K done, and I'll have had a sea dip and a sauna and a sound bath. I mean, it's a lot different to the type of sound baths I was having on Sunday mornings before. And yeah, and so saunas have a whole new meaning now compared to what a sauna used to be in my mind a few years ago. Um, so yeah, it's all good. It's there's a lot of good things, but yeah, I suppose maybe if I just focus on all the good things and forget about all the aches and pains and all the sensory issues, maybe everything will be okay. But it won't be because I need to proactively and preemptively plan for these things. And I'm actually thinking about trying to source an infrared sauna to try and put it somewhere and a cold water immersion dip, stick it somewhere in the garden because I believe both of those things are really good for inflammation, which in turn could probably help with the burnout and anxiety and feelings of overwhelm. So yeah, I there's a lot of wellness stuff and self-help, and it's great to see online so many fitness coaches, and there's so many people in recovery as well who are now using kind of the tools and principles and things from the 12-step recovery programs. There's a lot of crossovers, I think, between 12-step recovery and it's kind of an OT or a PT, a physical physical therapist or an online coach. Um, I mean, I haven't done much research into it, but I think there's kind of a philosophy behind it, and there's a community, and so there's a lot of that stuff. And I'm gonna chat to ChatGPT about some of that stuff shortly, because yeah, I know for years, I've always tried the fad diets, and I've joined all the gyms, and I've always struggled. I'm one of those people who I'd go to a gym for a little while, then I would stop. And of course, now I realize that things like the bright lights in the gym, the noises of the equipment, the people, all of that stuff was kind of a factor in kind of not making me want to go. Even though there's probably ways to get around it, like going at times where it's quiet, or going to a spinning class and sitting at the back maybe, or sitting at the front so you can't see anybody. That's what I used to do. And so yeah, the whole world of there's no doubt that like diet and exercise is a massive part of recovery and of health, which is kind of the foundation for me of everything. And even more so, the fact that I have various health conditions that I need to sort of manage and to treat. For the most part, I do a lot of home cooking. For lunch, I had like homemade vegetable soup, which I made myself, homemade brown bread, and kind of a chicken salad. And the problem I have is at nighttime, I get those cravings for something sweet. And so that's something I really need to look at. Is when I did lose all the weight there last year or the year before, one of the biggest things was I stopped eating at like 5 o'clock, 5 or 6, and I didn't eat until the next day. I drink loads of water. Um, so there's just a few small changes I probably need to make and keep up the consistency with my exercise and my walking. I've kind of slacked off walking for the last few days, but I was typically doing about 5 kilometers a day. And, cycling, I probably want to try to get back into swimming. And so, yeah, I think one of the biggest things about self help is probably accountability and motivation, obviously. And so I'm going to be chatting to ChatGPT about some of that stuff and how to, really stay accountable to myself and how to help myself as somebody who, may or may not be designed for a busy, loud gym with lots of noise. And so, yeah, stay tuned. Okay, so you're very welcome to this section of this week's episode. which is all about self-help with me and ChatGPT. So I've had a bit of a quick costume change, and I'm excited to jump straight in. So yeah, welcome to this week's episode, ChatGPT, and you've got a new look and voice as well. I'm experimenting with different avatars and different equipment. So yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for having me. I love the energy and the quick costume change vibe. It's always fun to mix things up. So, let's dive into this week's topic on self-help. Where should we start?
Yeah, so I suppose I'm very interested in the crossovers between like a recovery and 12-step philosophies and approaches to or 12-step modalities, and when it comes to my recovery. And I realized that diet and nutrition and exercise and fitness is a big part of that as well. And when you look online these days, like all you see is I earlier I said PT was physical therapy, but actually it's personal personal trainer. Like that's one thing I don't have yet. Maybe I should try to get a personal trainer. Or I wonder, could I combine the knowledge from 12-step recovery with some motivation from seeing people's transformations online, and just sort of like manage to motivate myself and be accountable to myself? Or how could I sort of do the best of both?
I think you absolutely can combine those elements. The principles of 12-step recovery, like accountability, community support, and taking things one day at a time, can definitely fuel your fitness journey. Seeing transformations online can be inspiring, but remember, consistency and self-compassion are key. You might not need a personal trainer right away if you can build a routine that aligns with your recovery principles. Using tools like journaling your progress, setting small, achievable goals, and maybe finding an accountability buddy from your community could bridge the gap. It's all about blending those recovery principles with a holistic approach to health.
Yeah, I suppose like maybe at the moment I was thinking if there was a way I could do it by myself without actually having to financially pay for a personal trainer or for another gym membership after joining gyms for so many times for years and years. Like I have a couple of 3 kilo dumbbells here, and I've got some space where and I can do lots of walks and cycling and maybe swimming and stuff. And maybe so yeah, I suppose I'm just thinking like I don't know, maybe I could check in every week with an AI tool or with you or with something else. I don't know.
That's a great idea. You can definitely create a solid routine with what you have. Using those dumbbells, incorporating body weight exercises, and doing regular cardio like walking, cycling, and swimming can be super effective. Checking in weekly with an AI tool or with me can help you stay accountable and track your progress. It's all about building that habit and keeping yourself motivated. And remember, small, consistent steps can lead to big changes over time. You've got this.
Thank you. It's difficult in the evening times like now when I feel like getting treating myself to a snack or a bowl of cereal or something. I don't know, but yeah, so I suppose another thing that's quite big is like, there's a lot of strength and growth that comes from vulnerability and kind of sharing transformation journeys. And like I've shared a lot about my weight loss, losing over 100 pounds, like 8.5 stone, but now I've put back on 2.5 stone. And I find whenever I see other people's transformations, like before and after pictures, or I hear the journeys they've come through, that can be really inspiring and motivating. Sometimes I kind of share some stuff about myself, but then now I look at myself and I'm like, oh no, you've put back on 2.5 stone. What are you going to do? And like, how can I just get that motivation and accountability back where I feel like I'm past the point of like I almost have given myself a free pass. Part of me is saying to myself, "Ah, it's okay. You can have another, whatever. Like you can just. What's the point now? Like you already don't fit into your clothes anymore, so you might as well keep going." So like, how do I manage to turn things back around before it's too late?
I hear you. It's definitely tough when you feel like you've slipped back. But remember, the journey is all about progress, not perfection. You've already proven to yourself that you can achieve amazing things, like losing over 100 pounds. That's huge. To get that motivation and accountability back, start with small, manageable steps. Maybe revisit what worked for you in the past, like setting daily or weekly goals, and celebrate those small wins. Also, it's okay to share the ups and downs of your journey. That vulnerability can inspire others and remind you that you're not alone. And most importantly, be kind to yourself. Every day is a new opportunity to make a positive choice, and those little choices will add up over time. You've got this.
Thank you. I'll just have to put you on repeat saying you've got this all the time because I really I have very negative self-talk and I sort of I can beat myself up. Sometimes I'm my biggest cheerleader and there's other times where I'm my biggest critic. You know, I have that inner critic and the critical self-talk and all that sort of stuff. I don't know, have you any sort of thoughts on maybe ways to overcome some of that stuff?
Absolutely. That inner critic can be really loud sometimes, but there are ways to quiet it down. One approach is to practice self-compassion. Treat yourself like you would treat a friend. When that negative self-talk starts, try to catch it and reframe it with something kinder and more realistic. Another technique is to focus on affirmations or positive self-talk. It might feel a bit odd at first, but consistently reminding yourself of your strengths and achievements can help shift your mindset. Also, journaling can be a great tool. Writing down those critical thoughts and then challenging them with evidence to the contrary can help put things into perspective. Remember, it's okay to be a work in progress. You're doing great, and every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory.
Thank you. And so it's not self-help is not selfish. Sure, it's not. Like by focusing, because a lot of times in 12 step recovery, I hear so much like it's all about giving back and giving back. And I think, you know, you need to put on your own life oxygen mask first and whatever. And unless you can fill up your own tank first, you can't really give back. And something like that a point where I'm at maybe in my life and in my recovery is by sharing about some of my experiences and some of the ups and downs and smiles and frowns in my own experience. That is, I guess, a way of giving back, even if it's just talking to you now like this, or if it's kind of saying, yeah, you know, I'm struggling now too with trying to kind of keep the weight off and stuff like that. And I don't know. Sometimes I think like, oh, is it all like, you know, is it bad to be all like self-promoting and self-obsessed? But like, I'd rather be obsessed with improving myself and going to the gym and eating right and talking about all that stuff and sharing tips and tricks with other people and getting motivated and being accountable. And I'd prefer to be obsessed with all that sort of stuff than the alternative. Do you know what I mean? And it's probably a bit of balance as well.
I completely get what you mean. Focusing on self-improvement and sharing your journey isn't self-obsession. It's about growth and connection. By being open about your experiences, you're not only helping yourself, but also creating a space where others can relate and find inspiration. It's definitely a balancing act, filling your own cup so you can give to others. And by being honest about the struggles as well as the victories, you're fostering a genuine sense of community and support. Keep doing what feels right for you, and remember that it's okay to take pride in your progress.
Thank you. And what do you think in terms of what I mentioned about the crossovers between 12 step and sort of the whole wellness industry and self-help and sort of PTs and motivation and all that stuff?
I think there are definitely strong crossovers. Both the 12-step approach and the broader wellness and self-help industries emphasize accountability, personal growth, and holistic well-being. They both promote the idea that sustainable change comes from a combination of mindset shifts, community support, and consistent practice. In the wellness industry, you often see a focus on physical health, mental well-being, and lifestyle habits, which aligns closely with the holistic nature of recovery programs. Personal trainers, for example, help with setting and achieving fitness goals, much like a sponsor or mentor in a 12-step program helps with personal growth goals. Ultimately, both worlds aim to empower individuals to live their best lives through structure, support, and self-awareness. Integrating the strengths of both can create a powerful approach to personal development and well-being.
That's really interesting, actually. Tell me more about that, because I think that's actually something that, like, it's a big part. I often talk about recovery and health being the foundation of my passion or my mission in life. There's a lot of recovery and health is the foundation, and then there's sort of training and therapy and creativity and all this stuff. And so, trying to maintain the foundation is an important task, but it's sometimes difficult, especially with some of the challenges with some of the interconnected, overlapping symptoms and conditions I have and whatnot.
Absolutely. Maintaining that foundation of recovery and health can be challenging, especially when you're juggling multiple conditions and symptoms. The idea of integrating training, therapy, and creativity into that foundation is a powerful approach. It's like building a holistic toolkit that supports you from different angles. One key aspect is to recognize that each part of that toolkit, whether it's physical exercise, therapy, or creative expression, contributes to your overall stability and resilience. For example, regular physical activity can help manage stress and boost your mood, while therapy can provide the tools to navigate emotional challenges. Creativity, on the other hand, can offer a meaningful outlet for self-expression and personal fulfillment. It's also important to be patient with yourself and adjust your approach as needed. Some days one tool might be more effective than another, and that's okay. The key is to keep nurturing that foundation so you can continue building on your passions and mission in life.
Thanks. So, do you have any sort of top tips or tricks when it comes to wellness and sort of physical well-being and stuff like that to help with mental and emotional well-being?
Definitely. One of the best tips is to find activities you genuinely enjoy, whether it's a specific type of exercise, a hobby, or a relaxing routine. When you enjoy what you're doing, you're more likely to stick with it and reap the benefits. Another great tip is to establish a consistent routine that includes both movement and mindfulness. Even something as simple as a daily walk or a short meditation session can make a big difference in your mental and emotional well-being. Also, don't underestimate the power of rest and recovery. Getting enough sleep, taking rest days, and allowing yourself downtime are crucial for maintaining overall wellness. Finally, remember to celebrate your progress no matter how small. Recognizing and appreciating your achievements can boost your motivation and keep you moving forward.
That sounds brilliant. And so, like, if we were to make a top 10 list, things like sleep, eat, exercise, uh, like walk, talk, I forgot, like, drink lots of water. Let's come up with, like, our anything is possible top 10, or let's do top 12, because this is episode number 12, and it's a 12-step program. So let's do the top 12 anything is possible self-help tips, top 12 tips. Go for it.
All right, let's do it. Here's our Anything is Possible Top 12 Self-Help Tips. 1. Prioritize sleep. Aim for consistent, restful sleep to recharge your mind and body. 2. Nourish your body. Eat balanced meals that fuel you and make you feel good. 3. Stay hydrated. Drink plenty of water throughout the day to keep your energy up. 4. Move regularly. Incorporate physical activity you enjoy, whether it's walking, dancing, or hitting the gym. 5. Practice mindfulness. Take time to be present, whether through meditation, deep breathing, or quiet reflection. 6. Connect with others. Build and maintain supportive relationships. Community is key. 7. Set boundaries. Know your limits and respect them to protect your well-being. 8. Seek help when needed. Don't hesitate to reach out to a therapist, mentor, or support group. 9. Embrace creativity. Engage in creative activities that bring you joy and self-expression. 10. Reflect and journal. Regularly reflect on your journey and jot down your thoughts to track progress and gain insights. 11. Stay curious. Keep learning and exploring new skills, ideas, and perspectives. 12. Celebrate progress. Acknowledge and celebrate every victory, no matter how small, to keep yourself motivated. There you have it, a holistic guide to keep you on track.
Thanks. Can we give it some sort of catchy name? Let's come up with a name for those top 12 self-help tips and tricks.
Sure thing. How about we call them the 12 Pillars of Possibility? It's catchy and aligns with the idea that anything is possible when you build on these foundational tips.
How about the 12 pillars of anything is possible?
I love it. The 12 Pillars of Anything is Possible has a great ring to it. It perfectly captures the spirit of growth and empowerment.
Perfect. Okay, I think we better wrap it up there because I can hear an ice cream truck in the neighborhood. So, ChatGPT, thank you so much for this episode as usual. And yeah, do you have anything to say before we wrap it up?
It's been a blast, as always. Thanks for having me on this episode. Enjoy that ice cream and remember, anything is possible. Catch you next time.
Recovery Reimagined 2025 is a conference live at Trinity College Dublin, which will be in person and also available virtually on Zoom. And it's all about emotional sobriety and managing interconnected recovery pathways. And it's run by Friendly Circle Berlin. So make sure you buy your ticket to this 3-day innovative event, which is run by the recovery community for the recovery community. There's a whole host of experts in addiction and in recovery, and it's not to be missed. So I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or whatever other platform you tuned in from, and make sure you give me a like or a follow on social media at jonos_journey, and like, follow, share, all those things. And until next time, remember, anything is possible.